We've had quite a lot of talk about the PlayStation 4 Pro ever since the reveal at Sony's conference, and now we have some more from Andrew House himself, who spoke at length about it at Tokyo Game Show this year. Now, he talks about various things, and the first of which is further comments about which customer base that they're targeting with the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, of course, I've discussed previously how when they were building and designing the machine, Sony were actually thinking of PC gamers, or the PC audience, when they were designing it, and how that might actually be not the best tactic for the Pro. And he doesn't say that again, but he definitely reiterates that they're targeting a more quote-unquote Pro target base with this, hence the name. And he said, quote, "I think that the industry probably needs to take more time, not just in explaining the benefits, but showing what those benefits are. One of the reasons we elected to pursue PS4 Pro is that 4K and HDR in particular are unnatural for games. It's very easy for most people to be able to see a demonstrable difference between those two technologies. That being said, you phrased the question around the average user. We did call it PlayStation 4 Pro, so I think it's inherent in the name. I'm not being facetious, honestly. We are targeting this towards someone who's probably pretty knowledgeable and committed in the kind of entertainment they want." Now, of course, we all know the specs for the Pro now, and it's pretty clear that that particular machine is not going to be doing native 4K resolution. It's all going to be upscaled via checkerboard rendering. And he then went on to discuss how most 4K games on the Pro are going to indeed be upscaled. And he said, quote, "I would say the majority will be upscaled, at least based on the game portfolio I have seen to date. I think that whatever the term is, it's a question of whether people see a demonstrable difference in the game experience or not, rather than the term we use to apply to it. I think that's what people are looking for, and they make their judgment as to whether that's working for them or not." So obviously it's not going to be good as native 4K on PC. We all know that. We kind of knew that when we heard the specs. You know, 4.2 T-flops is great and all. It's a big upgrade from the vanilla PS4, but it's not enough to do native 4K on most games at higher settings. Now, he discussed as well PlayStation VR, which is actually something I was surprised to not see mentioned at the recent Sony conference. And he also touched on virtual reality as a whole, and basically admitted that it is very early days indeed for that particular medium, with lots of more work to be done, especially around the controller interface. And he said, quote, "Yes, I do. I think it's very much a different medium than what we've seen before. It's certainly borne out for me by a number of the demos that I played. It's a heightened level of excitement. It's a different sense of immersion, and jokingly I'd say if you can get that from a cynical person who's been in the industry for 20 years, and there's got to be something pretty exciting there. However, I keep pointing out this is very, very early days, and there's awful lot more work to be done around controller interface and around understanding what true sense of presence is and isn't. But I think that the exciting thing is, and the reason I like the game industry is that we learn very quickly and reiterate very quickly from that." Some really interesting comments from House there, especially his honesty regarding the upscaled 4K for the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, obviously, I keep talking about checkerboard rendering, and I think that's something that Paul is probably going to be discussing at some point soon. Don't want to say when, as he hasn't really set a timeline himself, and I don't want to speak for him. But he does seem keen to talk about checkerboard rendering and what that actually means and how it's achieved and yada yada yada. Because obviously that's a word, or phrase should I say, that's going to be uttered a lot, especially with the Pro and the Scorpio on the horizon. Regarding his comments on virtual reality, yes, it is indeed very, very early days. I'm curious to see how the PlayStation VR headset actually turns out. If it actually works out and has good games and actually ends up being a decent VR headset, it could actually be the most affordable headset on the market, especially if those rumours about PlayStation VR supporting PC are true. To be honest, in my mind, that would be the smartest thing Sony could do, because it would mean that they are the entry-level VR for console and PC, because on PC, both the big VR headsets, the Vive and the Rift, are very expensive, and of course you need quite the machine to run them, and the PlayStation VR, if it supported PC, would probably not be the case. So we'll have to see what happens there, but I'm definitely interested to see what happens with the PlayStation VR. It has the potential to really be the entry level for most consumers. Anyway, that is me done for this video, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.